this video, we're going to go over part 1 of the bird notes. For birds, we're in the kingdom Animalia, the phylum Chordata, and the class Aves. Some characteristics that all birds are going to share is first, that they're closely related to reptiles. Second is that they maintain their internal body temperature themselves, which is called endothermic. The third is that they have 2 legs covered with scales. And then the fourth thing would be their front limbs are modified into wings. Next would be that their body is covered in feathers, and they lay eggs with a calcium shell. They have a beak but no teeth, and then they have hollow bones, which is not what we have as humans, and that helps them reduce their body weight. And then their bones are fused together, which also helps them reduce their body weight. Now moving on to feathers. Feathers are made of a protein called keratin. The keratin gives the feathers strength and flexibility. Some anatomy of the feather is that there's a central shaft of the feather, which is the center line that goes down the middle of the feather. The first part of it is called the calamus. This is the part that's closer to the bird's body. It's hollow and it doesn't contain any veins, and I don't mean like a blood vein. That's not what we're talking about with this term vein. The distal end of the central shaft is referred to as the rachis, which is solid and is defined as the area which all the veins are attached to. Right. Veins are what extend from each side of the feather. They're a series of parallel branches called barbs that make up the vein. Extending from the barbs are a series of short branchlets called barbules, and then there's tiny hooklets that tie the barbules together, and ultimately the barbs together. It's a somewhat complex arrangement that ends up creating a very strong and lightweight structure to the feather. Pinned feathers are sometimes called blood feathers. They are a developing feather on a bird. Unlike a fully developed feather, the pinned feather will have a blood supply flowing through it. If the pinned feather is damaged, the bird can bleed out heavily. Right. Some types of feathers. The first is a contour feather. These are the outer feathers to the birds. It gives them their coloring, helps them with flight. And the contour feathers tend to lie on top of each other, much like shingles on a roof. And the feathers tend to repel water, keeping the body dry and well insulated. The second is remiges, which are large flight feathers. There's primary ones, which are the outer ones. They're the largest and strongest of the flight feathers, and they're attached to the skeletal equivalent of a hand of the bird. The secondaries are the inner ones. They're attached to the forearm of the bird. They're located between the body of the bird and the primaries. The secondaries help provide lift in both soaring and flapping flight. So you can see on this diagram here, the primaries and then the secondaries are over here. Okay. Next is the rectrices, which are the tail feathers. The tail feathers are used to provide stability and control, and they are referred to collectively as rectrices. So there's a variety of tail feathers out there, from hawks to turkeys to peacocks. Okay. Next is the coverts. They are bordering and overlaying the edges of the remiges and the rectrices on both the lower side and the upper side of the body are rows of feathers called coverts. They help streamline the shape of the wings and tail to provide the bird with insulation. So that's this area right here. All right. Then you have bristles, which are whisker-like feathers. These are specialized feathers that are small, and they contour feathers which lack barbs. They project from the beak in many insect-eating birds, including flycatchers, nightjars, and robins. They are believed to provide protection for the bird's eyes as it consumes prey that moves around a lot. The bristles may provide a tactile feedback as well, much like whiskers are found on a dog or a cat. And you can see that close up in these pictures here around the bird's beaks. Then there's down feathers, which are the inner feathers that are soft and finely divided feathers used to help keep it warm. They trap a layer of air to provide insulation, and they lack hooks to lock the feathers together. Down feathers are the feathers that cover the bodies of young birds. So you can see that what they look like here and on the young birds. Right. For preening the feathers, preening is the process by which birds will groom and care for their feathers. Birds will spend several hours a day preening, and the bird uses its beak like a comb to draw together the barbs and barbules to stop the feathers from fraying apart. There's a few different reasons for this. The birds will have one oil gland in their skin at the base of their tail called a pineal gland. I can never say that right. They squeeze oil from this gland with their beak, and then they coat their feathers with the oil, and that oil helps waterproof the feathers and protect against parasites like lice. And then the third reason is preening will help with pairs bonding during breeding season, so they'll preen each other. Right. Molting is when a bird's feathers become worn out and damaged, and it's replaced by new feathers. So molting is a process of shedding the feathers and replacing them with new feathers. Most birds will molt once a year. Some will molt with a season, and then others molt just a little bit at a time where they don't lose all of their feathers at once. Right. Sexual dimorphism in birds is generally shown with plumage, and it can help birds as well as people identify who are the males and who are the females. Males tend to be the more colorful of birds, and females tend to have more camouflage colors. So here with a duck, this one on the left is the female, and then this one with the green head is the male. Between these two birds, I forget what species this is, but the more colorful one here is the male, and same with this duck species, the one with the blue beak is the male. So even like cardinals that you may see in your backyard, if you see a red cardinal, that is the male. Female cardinals are actually brown in color. All right. Coloring can also be help determine the age of the bird. Adolescent birds tend to be a different color than those who are of breeding age. So adult pelican here, you see this coloration, and then this is the adolescent pelican. So it looks more female than male. And then breeding plumage, feathers are a form of advertising. So male birds will show off their plumage to the female birds. Scientists say it demonstrates vigor and skill of a bird's display, which indicates its fitness as a male. So they'll use it just to show off to a female and attract a mate.